last thing from you, Atlas. In your pre-show notes to us, you said, I guess one of my hot takes is asking people's body count is immature.
Yeah, okay,
Why
and so I don't even have a high body count, but like I have friends
Stop
that...
the cap.
Sorry.
Well, maybe I do to... Actually, maybe I do to
like...
like certain people or something like that.
Okay.
But I don't know. Because I watch a lot of dating podcasts of... It seems to be like quite a bit older people than like you. And they're... What? And their take on stuff like that, I kind of think is true. Like, it seems like people who are older and more mature aren't really having those conversations, and maybe it's because the woman or the man is not giving the vibe that they're sketchy, promiscuous, you know. So we don't need to talk about your exes. Like, it's
because
not,
the boomers
you know
grew up during the sexual revolution, and they're all degenerate.
So the guys,
I'm kidding. If
the two guys that I watch, I think they're like in their mid 40s.
This was before the HIV. Okay, I don't know. Wait, was it? Hold on.
They're like in their mid 40s. I think I listed their names on my application of the people I listen to. He's like, I don't want to give them free publicity, but yeah, I just feel like depending on how that conversation comes up, okay, I think there is a certain way it could come up, like kind of when I was like questioning him on it and the way he explained it, I can get it, but I think the way it typically tends to come up is just kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. It's
why do you feel like it's not like an appropriate question to ask? I know it
depends on context.
But do you think it's fair for a man to care about that?
I do. I think, but I also not to a certain extent.
So
right. So it's
to what extent do you think it's fair?
If you're worried that they are so promiscuous that they could maybe have an addiction, they could cheat on you, or maybe they have an STD.
That sounds like some great reasons.
So I think those are great reasons.
To what degree do you think it's not fair for a man to care?
To what degree do I think it's not fair for men to care? If you don't give off any of those vibes, like you guys have a really good relationship, you're not scandalous, he knows you're not promiscuous, maybe he knows that you've been checked and you are clean, it's like, why does it matter?
I'll tell you why it matters. If a woman has a body count of 50, for example, and I find that out, I'm going to be asking... Is
that where the high starts? Like, where's the...
it's lower than that.
Yeah.
Okay,
for me, once it starts getting into double digits for me, like, I'm going to start asking questions like, okay, like, you know, tell me about your past, right? If she starts getting to, like, 15, 20, 30, like, past 20, it's like, okay, what, like... I want to take a close look at it. What's actually happened here, especially the younger a woman is. Because if a person has a series of failed relationships over and over again, especially a woman, there could be a lot of things that happen there. It's like, okay, what were you doing? Were you doing one night stands for like a few years, constantly getting railed by guys at bars?
Can I ask?
What's up?
So did it come up in conversation with you and your girlfriend? And if so, like, how did it come up then?
It did. And I asked her, but out of respect for her, I don't want to say anything more about that conversation.
Yeah, no, of course.
But yeah, it did. Like I asked her just very frankly. And it was like, initially she was like, whoa, like, why are you asking me that? And
at
then
what
like,
point?
And then what did you say?
Once like we started to know that like we were interested in one another and it was like mutual, like there was a mutual understanding, then I asked.
And what was your reasoning though? Because she was thrown off, right? She was like, whoa, where's this coming from? And you were like, well, this is why I want to know. Like, what was your, like, this is why I want to know?
It's a great question. Basically exactly what I'm describing to you. So, and I'll add some context. There's a lot of data on the number of premarital sexual partners somebody's had and what their likelihood of divorce is in marriage.
And that was your idea, like going in, you're like, I want to know.
Yeah, that's
one of the main reasons.
Once I saw the data on like body count and the number of partners either a man or a woman has had, I was like, yo, this is an important thing because my parents got divorced and I want to do everything I possibly can to minimize the chances of ever getting divorced to my partner. Like it's the worst thing that you can ever go through in marriage, obviously. And so it's like there's a lot of different factors that go into divorce. Maybe one person is really bad at listening to the other. Maybe one person is like lazy, whatever. But the number of premarital sexual partners somebody's had, it's like a direct correlation. The higher that number, the higher the chances of divorce. So to give you an example, a virgin on average has less than 5% chance of getting divorced. Somebody with more than 10 sexual partners on average, 50% chance of getting divorced. That's a big deal. And this is for both sexes. That's a big deal. So if you're somebody who really cares about marriage and you don't want to get divorced, especially as a man, because men get absolutely screwed in divorce, you want to ask those questions. And so I was very upfront with her. I was like, this is why I'm optimizing for marriage. This is why I care. And it's like, there's different reasons other than that why it matters. It's like if somebody was a serial monogamist, for example, that's different than if they were cheating on their ex-partner, which is different than if they were getting railed at bars all the time. Like you want to know about the person's psychology, and when you have that conversation, you can gain insight into like, who are you? How do you approach relationships? And if you care about marriage, you can gain valuable information there.
Annie, it looked like you had something to say.
Because I must be an anomaly.
You guys speak into your mic.
I must be an anomaly because my husband never asked that question.
Well, most guys in your generation don't. Like it's kind of like an our generation thing.
So here's the thing, though. Rahab was related to Jesus Christ. So was Tamar.
Huh?
They had some bad mojo before they were with their husbands.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
if you're going to truly be Christ-like, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm not trying to disrespect you,
I don't feel
that's not going to
disrespected.
matter. Because that person, if you love them, that what they've done before does not matter.
So
It doesn't matter.
Because my
And
person
I've
hold
married
on,
14
hold on.
years
I'm
now.
Is like, I just want to know if you're a
It's just
slut,
not fair.
you
It's
know,
not
just-
fair. That's
Okay,
all I'm saying.
okay,
It's not
I
fair.
hear what you're
What do you
saying.
mean it's not fair?
Hold on.
Wait, let me say one thing. Let me say
It's
one
just
thing.
not fair.
Life's unfair. The world's unfair. Women curve short dudes because they're short.
Brian, you get a pass
Sorry,
because you're not
Kings.
these two dudes.
Wait, what do you mean?
No, so here's the thing.
Because
so
these
here's
guys
the
are
thing.
Christ followers.
You're saying
they're
you're
supposed
saying,
to have grace for women in all areas.
Just
There's-
because we're Christian doesn't mean we have to marry prostitutes.
They can have
Okay?
No,
preference.
I'm not telling you guys to do that. But
Everyone can have
how,
preference.
you know what? Rahab was redeemed by a spy.
We'll see
I
one
just
day.
preached on this at a church on Sunday. She was redeemed by a spy that cared enough for her when the walls came down at Jericho to take her out of that lifestyle.
But isn't that the
Hey, that's
exception to
good.
the rule? And when you look at your
not
lifestyle,
gonna
even
marry
you say maybe I'm the exception. Yes, girl, you are the
Simple.
exception. Look at the
But it can
upbringing
happen.
that you had, and
I
look
want
at
him to
everything that you.
I want him to expand his mind and not be so judgmental
All right,
to
so
someone
hold
he
on,
could
hold on.
possibly love.
My
Hold on,
mind is
hold on.
fully expanded. I will not
Hold on.
marry a prostitute.
I'm
So-
not saying that they're still doing it.
Annie,
It's,
may
you
I
know,
please respond to
you know.
everything that you just said? Okay. There is room for Christ-like love, and there is also room for wisdom and discernment in terms of who you are entering a marital contract into. Okay, you can forgive someone for their past. Someone can have a past. That doesn't mean that you're obligated to marry them. Okay, so if I'm having a conversation with a woman and she has a past, but she regrets her past and she's repentant of it. Let's say, you know, maybe she had like a bad pattern in her past. Maybe she, you know, was looking for love in all the wrong places, something like that. And she developed a habit of sleeping with men too easily or something. Like that is something that a person can learn from. And there's also absolutely room for Christ-like forgiveness for something like that. There's no question. You know, everybody can be made new again in Christ. Okay. Why I would care though still as a man is because I want to know what happened there, because if I'm going to get married to you, unless we're signing a prenup or something like that, like I need to know, who are you? How do you approach relationships? I can have forgiveness for your past, but how do you approach relationships? Because here in America, we've got no fault divorce. Is there something there that might lead you one day to just decide you want to divorce me and absolutely screw me and take my kids and half my income and everything like that? Is there something that could be lurking there? Because if there is, I want to know about it. You know, I'm not obligated to marry a woman with a past. If I'm entering into a contract with somebody, I want to know who I'm entering into that contract with. But you can
What if
still
it's all who's
love
left?
them and forgive them. What'd you say?
You don't have to be a prostitute to do that and divorce someone and take all their money. Okay, there's plenty of
Exactly.
women that do that.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
come
there
on,
are.
man.
There are, which is,
Okay.
and most people nowadays are not prudent about who they marry. Most marriages end in divorce. A lot of people just get up in their feelings and they fall in love with somebody and they don't have the really hard conversations. They don't ask the really tough questions, both men and women. A lot of women don't vet men properly for their red flags. A lot of women end up with men who are abusive. Yeah, a man could have had an abusive past. A man could have been a murderer. It's a woman's job to see if that was the case, because if he was a murderer, she can forgive him and have Christ-like love for him. But is she still obligated to marry him? Would it be a good idea?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you just have to open your mind, because what if there is a person that you meet, and I'm going to pray that for you, by the way.
You're going to pray for him.
I'm going to pray for him to
marry
run
a
into
prostitute.
a woman that's so, he can't handle the attraction he has, and it's so strong that it's actually spiritual too.
Look.
And he's like compelled to marry her.
We're not
Just so
we're not
compelled.
against a Christian marrying a prostitute.
I'm just
you can
just
see
saying
that in Hosea.
that
Hosea gets a direct
that's
command
the
from
redemption. That's what
Does
Christ
he marry
did for the church.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
You know, it's
I agree.
beautiful. And I cry for this because there is so many women out there, and I'm going to cry for them, that they just want someone to love them and give them a chance.
You're not owed a relationship. You're not
I know,
owed a
but
marriage.
still, but that's why Christ came. So
What?
we could
Well,
all
I
be
guess-
redeemed.
I guess that's why maybe it could kind of
I
suck.
fight for
is
the
like-
girls, that's all. I fight
That's fair. That's fair, and I respect that. I
because
respect
I
that.
know their hearts.
You're-
they'll
you're-
give their
Wait.
shirt off their back.
Into the mic, please.
Annie, I want to.
They'll give their shirt off their back, and they give their heart more than once. Trust me, and that's why.
They might be
And
great
it-
people,
wait.
but
Yes.
men.
Brian, can I say something really quick?
Let me get in one
I'm
thing
emotional
really quick.
because you know what? I'm sad that
Annie,
this is
I want
how
to say,
men are
Annie,
thinking
Annie.
right now.
Well, okay, so hold on. Annie,
It makes me
Annie,
sad.
Annie, please listen.
Am I wrong
Please,
for
please,
crying?
Annie, please listen. No, you're not wrong for crying. Annie, I love the heart that you have for these women, and I love the fact that you are a voice for these women. You listening? Yeah. I love the fact that you're a voice for these women, because I can't imagine, your guys' lives and everything that you've been through. Like, I think it's very valuable that you're speaking up on their behalf. Okay. Now, just like you're a voice for those women, what I'm trying to do is be a voice for men. And we live in a world where a lot of bad women screw over a lot of good men.
And I understand that. I totally get the Jezebels. I get it.
Okay.
I respect that part. I don't want you guys to get hurt too, but we got to give each other a chance at some point.
There's no question. We've got to give each other Christ-like chances, but it's also important to be for both sexes to be discerning about who they're getting into relationships with, because there's a lot of broken families out there and a lot of broken marriages, and I want to try and prevent that.
Annie, can I ask you a question? Would you object to a woman not wanting to date a man who's shorter than her?
That's a totally different subject.
No, it's
Are
not.
you fucking kidding?
No, it is not, Annie. No, it is
Everybody
not.
knows
Well,
it's not.
but can you answer the question? Though? Would you object? Would you object to a woman not wanting to date a man who's shorter than her?
He's saying preference.
I've dated men shorter than me.
Would you object? Okay, let's say Atlas is like, I don't want to date men unless they're over 6 feet tall. Would you say that's wrong, or is she justified in that?
I mean, this has nothing to do with the
It
sexuality
has
part.
it has everything to do with
I
it,
mean,
Annie. Is she
for me,
wrong
it
for
doesn't.
wanting that?
For me, it doesn't.
For you,
if
it
he has
doesn't.
muscles, it's on.
Okay. So basically,
It's a
what you're
personal
saying,
preference.
what you're saying is
Yes.
it's not okay for us to have preferences, but it's okay for women to have preferences. That's what you're telling me.
I want someone to buy the champagne.
This has all got to do with redemption and sexuality
Hey,
and
Atlas
mistakes
wants
being
somebody
made.
to buy the
Somebody, if you were born short, that's not your fault.
Right, but choosing to
People-
be a pro.
People can make mistakes in their life, but they can also choose to continually do wrong, and that is their fault. If somebody chooses to keep doing the wrong thing, that is their fault. If a woman decides, I want to go have sex with 50 men at bars over the next 10 years, obviously no woman's consciously thinking that, but if she makes the choice continually to do that, that's her choice. She made that choice.
Basically,
I'm not tricking anybody though. I'm not tricking anyone into marriage. I'm not tricking anyone into
That's
divorce.
not what
I'm putting a price out. It's up front and guaranteed. I give you what you pay for.
And if they
and
want
more.
it, they want it. Is that what you're saying? If they want it, you got
there's
it.
no
If
tricking.
not,
There's no.
that's
There's
fine.
no.
but
you know,
but this is the
She's
thing.
honest.
Yeah.
This is the
I'm
thing
honest.
that's
But it's not a contract for a relationship.
Okay, this is the thing though,
Yes.
is that when men have preferences, standards, and boundaries, for example, not wanting to date a woman who's has a promiscuous past, not wanting to date a woman who was engaged in sex work in her past or currently, to me it's shocking that it's somehow that you can
Hot
well,
tub
I just
whatever.
feel like
Yeah,
we shouldn't have
yeah.
to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
I get
Nobody.
it in the
No,
sense
hold on,
of like,
no. Let me finish. Let me
Okay.
finish. People always have issues with male standards, male preferences, male boundaries, but nobody bats an eye when a woman says, "I want X, Y, Z in a partner." Women are allowed to have preferences, standards, and boundaries. Men aren't. If a woman says, "I want to date a guy who's tall," cool. If a guy says, "I don't want to date a woman who's overweight," whoa, you're fat shaming. That's body shaming. You're discriminating.
Right.
Men's preferences are discriminatory. Women's preferences are preferences. It happens to be the case that men care about a woman's past or promiscuity. So
It's
It's
literally
just like-
it's
Well,
literally
men are
like
allowed
the
to sleep
equivalent.
with as many
hold on,
women as
hold
they
on,
want,
hold on,
and
hold on.
women aren't.
This is like this conversation is like the equivalent of saying, okay, so a man's like, yeah, I don't want a woman who is a prostitute. This is basically the same as if a woman was like, I don't want a guy who has gotten drunk and beaten up his girlfriends in the past. You could have grace for a man's past, but if you as a woman don't want to be with a guy who's beaten women in the past, that's your choice and you're justified in that.
I don't care if a man doesn't want a woman that was a prostitute. I don't care.
You
that
don't.
doesn't bother me.
Annie does.
It doesn't bother me. What
Okay.
it bothers me is that we pass judgment on women for sleeping with a lot of men, but women don't get to pass that judgment on men. That's
Women
the problem.
absolutely
wouldn't
get
make
to
that problem.
pass that
That's the
judgment.
problem.
They
Yeah,
we-
absolutely get to pass that judgment.
both
Yeah.
men and
Absolutely
women,
can.
both men and women make judgment calls about potential partners.
And you know what? And that makes the world go round.
I'm sure you like.
That makes the world go round. Okay, but men pass judgment on the girls at the Bunny Ranch
Sure.
every single day on race, color, size.
So you'll date anybody. You have there's no discernment at all when
I'm
it comes
on
to
this
who
show
you
to
date.
figure out how to date. Hello.
But
Same.
okay, so you just
Okay.
okay, all right, okay.
we don't know what we're doing.
Here we're gonna wrap up here pretty
You
soon.
guys, I just don't understand why people can't just love.
I'm just
I
getting
think
bashed.
It's
I came
not-
on
you guys
here to
aren't
figure
saying
out how to
that,
date.
you guys
Why
do
can't-
think
why
everyone
can't
deserves
women-
love.
why-
it's just
you-
not
you
your
said-
preference.
Well,
You're saying
you can love a prostitute without marrying her. Okay.
Okay, that's the point. We don't want you to marry us. We want
Well,
you to take
she
you
did.
back
That's
Someone did because
But
Jesus
you
was
are
born.
already
also
upfront,
saying
take
that
your dirty
a
clothes and go
prostitute, if the
home,
guy is
okay?
okay with it,
Yeah.
she still deserves love and marriage. If somebody,
Hey, yeah. If a guy
so-
wants
if
to,
a guy's okay
more
with
power
it-
to him.
yeah, it's
If
just
a guy's
you
okay with it-
personally or not.
well, I think we're also saying here most men are also probably going to have an issue with it.
Not even
So
religious
what?
guys. I think it's like a biological and
Yeah, you can-
psychological
I mean-
reaction. Like
Yeah.
take religion completely out of the picture, and most guys would still have the exact same feeling because it's biological and it's psychological.
What is also as biological is men like women with skinny waists and wide hips so they can birth, okay? And I see a lot of women get married that don't have skinny waists and wide hips.
Oh,
Okay.
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 I'm also biological. I see a lot of men. I can't say it on the show.
you made a good point there. I was going somewhere. I was
Well, I
going
mean,
somewhere.
Cover it up by making something
if
up.
Men want to be with a younger version of their wives, and they can't do that.
Okay. Well, if you're gonna talk biologically, then, so
Biologically.
for example,
Okay.
back in the day, like going back to the what's it, the old part of your brain that we
Your
still,
hindbrain.
yeah. So back in those days, the only way to ensure paternity, that the man was to ensure that this was going to be his child, is if the woman remains single to him and committed to him. Sorry, and still that's why to this day that part of the brain, men don't want to see their woman with anybody else in any capacity, even if it's just in the sense of being online.
And in fact, marriage was
There's more to
was
it than that as
incepted
well.
so that
I'd love to hear
men
it.
would take care of the child that they created. Otherwise, there was infanticide, and women were just throwing their children out into the street because the men weren't taking care of them.
A little too